So I thought it would be appropriate to start us off with a little something I wrote 4 years ago.
That sounds so inappropriate.
I said August 25th, 2017, time is always bleeding us out, and there's nothing we can do to prevent it. All we can do is hope for is that when we are tired and old, we are happy with what we've made, what we've done, and what time has made of us. I seen that in my Facebook memories today. Check them like every day for potential content for Instagram, like old pictures and shit. And I was like, my mind state was a lot worse even just a few years ago. Like, because like when I read that, I was like, oh, I didn't know I thought that way like that recently.
Yeah.
And I still agree kind of with what I wrote, but like I would never put that statement out there now that
The
way.
sentiment is accurate. However, it's more
Melancholy?
depressing than it needs to be. You know,
Well,
it's like,
or
yes,
we're reading it that way.
like, yes, we're all dying.
We're all dying,
But that's
and-
okay.
Yeah,
right?
now I'm more on that. That's okay.
Exactly.
So when you were writing it, was it more morose?
Sure sounds like it.
What birthdays
That's
tend
fair.
to do for me, because it was my birthday yesterday,
Yeah.
is
We'll get...
yeah, no thanks. Yeah, someone will have a problem with that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What else is new?
Especially on this podcast.
Yeah. I tend to take things like birthdays and New Year's Day and all those resolution days, like those kinds of things, a little more seriously than I wish I did. Like,
Fair.
I always don't think about my birthday coming towards it. I don't even remember half the time it's coming because I'm usually too busy to give a shit.
Fair.
But like, it's always the day after my birthday that I have this almost like this hangover resolution, like where it's like, I've got to get my shit together. Like, this can't be my life.
Is that what today is?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Like a little. I had quite a bit of that this morning where it was like, I gave myself a lot of rope last year to kind of recover.
Yeah, I think
like-
everybody did.
Yeah, well,
So
the
she-
year
yeah, what is
before
it
was
now?
so horrible.
August last year, you were probably like tiger stance, ready to strike.
Yeah.
Figure shit out.
And now I feel very tired and kind of burnt out with a lot of things and
Here, here,
craving a lot
Yeah.
of reinvention,
Yes.
but feeling kind of like it can't at the same time. Like,
Man, you're describing me right now. It's like, I can see it, but it's not here, and it's going to take forever, and it just is what it is. And I'm already tired from having to do all the rest of it.
yeah. Well, and the other thing is like, I tend to think of my life in sections, like
Chapters,
periods
if you
where,
will.
yeah, where things, it was kind of okay for this thing to happen the way it is for this period of time. But then you have to do something about it.
Yep.
Right? Like last year, it was just like, let's just survive. Now it's like, okay, I survived. I don't want to just keep surviving.
How do I
Yeah.
close this chapter now?
I'm tired of just surviving.
Especially when, like, I don't want to be, like, too like, downplay of this stuff, but, like, surviving for us nowadays is not really surviving.
No, it's
Like,
not.
It's like, was I not bored for enough of the time? Like, because we
Yeah,
always
well-
have the food, we always eat, we always sleep. We don't have the lions coming to kill us.
I find that there's something that happens with me where even the way I interact with people changes when I'm in this kind of a mode where people will say things that are innocent enough, like, have you considered what you'll think about some of the things you've done in the next 15 years? And what my immediate response is usually is like, well, I don't plan to be around that long necessarily. Like, and that sounds worse than it is.
I know.
Like, I'm not planning my every move around what 15 years later looks like. Like, I can't be bothered to think that way. So what my answer is always is like, well, everything looks different in 15 years. Nothing will look the same. Because I get that all the time. Now, what if those lines fade? Which there's one I was hoping to hit this morning. Because it's like, it's later than I wanted it to be. But people will be, well, what if those lines fade? What if it all goes away? All that. Like, well, there's nothing that isn't going to fade away.
Yes.
That's right.
Everything is going to fade
Yeah.
away.
Eventually, it's all
literally
meaningless.
everything is gone
Yeah.
at some period of time.
Yeah.
So what kind of a way is it to live my life thinking that something's going to last forever?
Well, we have to make a choice. Are we going to go through the day worried about what might happen in the future?
Yeah.
Or are we going to go through our day and do our best today and leave the space to actually experience the moment.
Well, what I was thinking was funny about that caption, that snippet that I wrote there in 2017 was, if you were to look at me from the outside in, most people's assumption would be, because blackout tattoos are usually tied to like regret or like self-hate or something, and I was like bright and colorful at that point. I think I had just blacked out my right hand. That was the first thing I blacked out when I had wrote that, and I was like, no, it doesn't matter necessarily the outside. The outside is not a clear indication of what's actually happening.
Yeah.
No, if
Yeah.
anything, it tends to be the. We use the outside as a bit of a projection half the time, right?
Yeah.
Like it's one of those like you're having a tough time, so you project really hard out,
Yeah.
right? So it's like if you get a really extreme version of something, more than likely it's a facade to try and hide from whatever's going on
Way
underneath.
more color in my diet when I was more unhappy.
Yeah,
Well,
weirdly enough, right?
Strange.
Fair. Touche.
Yeah.
So I saw
way
that
more
post.
peacocky.
I saw that post from a couple days ago where it's you and your son, and I think even Sarah was in the picture, and you're all color. You're all color. You got some crazy hairdo going on. All these things are happening. I'm like, wow. Like, I think both of your sleeves are already blacked out when I met you. So
Yeah.
like I've always
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of, oh yeah, blackout guy, like blackout underway, and I'm like, wait, that was like a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That's not that
Change
long
has
ago.
been rapid and it hasn't stopped.
Yeah, or maybe a year and a half before I met you.
Yeah, you had tons of
Huh?
red.
Wow.
Tons of red.
And I had a guy the other day who was like, wow, the eye looked so much better before. Like that line again. And I was like, when has it ever stopped changing?
Yeah, you're like, but
what,
I'm
what
here for the
before?
change.
What you mean the first time, the last time?
There's like
which time?
people have snapshots in their brains, right? Like
It's
they
been-
have a visual of what they think.
No,
it is.
they remember how it made them feel before.
That's what I mean, right?
And now
Yeah.
that it's different, hey, I feel different now, and I don't appreciate that.
Yeah, we do that with a lot of things.
Well,
Like
yeah.
we have like a vision or a feeling or kind of like a. I always call it like a cutout. Like you have a cutout of whatever you think it is, and you place that cutout on things, and you view those things as the cutout rather than whatever they are. Because
Well-
like if someone were to look at you and see every week your transition, there would not be a cutout. You know what I mean? Like it would just be like, oh, this is always kind of changing. But in most people's minds, it's like, well, they have a vision of what they think you are,
Yeah.
and that's what they're associating with you. And anything outside of the vision is wrong to them.
Well, the flippant response I got was, I just thought maybe you'd eventually be done coping with your trauma, right? And I was like, if
When I
anything-
die, yes.
Well,
Yeah,
if anything, like this is the
That's not how humans work.
this is the upside. Like this is not
Yeah.
the downside. This isn't the burrowing inward. This is the burrowing out.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird though?
This is me feeling good.
Yeah.
That's like the thing that we just kind of expect the traumatic events, whatever our lead up to where we are currently. We expect that to stop sometime.
I also find it weird now that like, oh, the only reason I feel bad today is because this bad thing happened to me 15 years ago. And like, yeah, sometimes that's true, but also let's not spend all of our time just blaming that, because even if your life has been perfect, you're still probably going to feel kind of shitty today. That just happens.
Yeah.
And it's it's okay to separate those two and be like, you know what, maybe today I just kind of feel emotionally shitty. And
Yeah.
that's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is all right. But I think people like to think of themselves preferentially, like, well, it all happened and I'm here.
Yeah.
As if that wherever the fuck you're sitting right now is the culmination
Like,
of your experience.
It's
Yeah.
not me. It's
This
this
is
thing
Kevin
that happened
forever.
I haven't dealt with yet.
yeah. What if Kevin goes through 15 more horrible things in the next 5 years?
Come on, man.
Right. You're like, please don't put that on me.
I got enough of that
He
right
might
now.
come out stronger and happier than if the next 15 years.
But
are
every
plush
step
and
of the
easy.
way, he's going to be thinking, this is my final form. For
Yeah,
some
of
reason.
course, yeah.
Like, it's we can't stop doing that where it's like, oh, well, I'm 33. I went through these things.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the problem with the mentality of living in the present. Because the present doesn't allow for change. The present is. And like if you don't have a present with understanding that the future is different, then it's hard to enjoy your present sometimes, because sometimes your present is terrible. Like I've gone through a number of those types of days in the last while where it's just like my present sucks.
Here's the problem, though, is when you start going, that's just now. It won't last forever. Right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's a good doctor for a minute. But then what if every day becomes that? Like, okay, like I'll find myself rushing through a week of work sometimes.
To get to your
And I'm like,
week off, weekend, whatever.
but my weekend's only for like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And there's parts of my weekend that I'm rushing through too.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, what day do I want to make it to?
Okay, so then my argument would be, then that should show you incongruity with how you're wanting to live your life, or how you are living your life. Like, if that's that thing where it's like we're trying, it's that stupid Adam Sandler movie. I can't believe I'm bringing this up. But
Click. Fast forward.
Yeah, where it's just like, we want to, if you're not actually embracing parts of your life, or there's parts of your life that you want to skip through, those parts probably need to change.
Yeah. But then what
Like,
if
not
that's-
that you have to always be enjoying everything you're doing. I'm not saying.
I
Yeah,
think
I've seen lots of
that's
people-
most parts of most people's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like almost everyone would just go fast forward.
Yeah.
And most people through their
And just
entire
keep it.
workday.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 Most people hate their jobs.
Like a lot of people are very much like, oh, I wish it was 5 o'clock by now.
Yeah.
That kind of crap.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wish I could start living.
Yeah, but it's worse
Yeah.
than that though, because
Yeah.
we fairly attribute that to work. What we don't realize is like we're doing that at home too.
yeah, of
We're
course.
just like doing that on our phones or like watching TV. Like, god damn, whatever takes the silence away. I can't bear to be alone with myself for a fucking second.
Yeah.
See, I'm the opposite. That's all I'm craving. Is like I just wish I had time to lay on my bed
Yeah.
and stare at the ceiling.
Well, you do have time for that, sort of. But
Not
usually you
much.
sleep during it.
It's just hard to budget for. It's hard to budget for it.
I do sleep 8 hours a night these days, and it's great.
But there was
so
a
I can't
point
complain.
when it was like I was like fighting with my lack of time to do things I enjoy. I was like, I don't like this, and now it's just like it is, and it's fine.
The thing that I used to fight with
the
was like
feeling.
it was like fighting for more time to do nothing, like
Yeah.
fighting for more time to be passive, fighting for more time to watch TV or do nonsense.
I call
And
it on task and off task now.
Me
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah.
my coworker and I used to talk about crazy conspiracy theory stuff. I'm not going to get too into that, but like
Why
we
not?
would be like, oh well, when they put us in Walmart, it's like the internment camp kind of idea, right? And he's like, as long as they give me Wi-Fi and chicken every now and then, I'll stay for as long as they want. I was like, I've thought about that line a lot over the years since he said it, and it's just like humans just want to be sedentary. Like a lot of
For the
humans,
most part.
they'd be fine with being farmed.
Yeah.
Like as long as they have their basic needs taken care of,
Well, I mean,
and
for
some of their wants,
Some of their
chicken
just a
and
few wants. Chicken
video
and internet.
games, the
Sort of.
occasional porno or whatever.
sort of those types of things. From what I was listening to on that latest Andrew Huberman podcast, breed addictions.
Yeah.
Like the inability
What
to.
doesn't though?
No, like we literally have created an environment where the inability to be bored, like the ability to distract yourself away from being bored, that feeling of boredom is actually important
Yeah,
to
I would
our
say
to
so.
our wiring and to the way that we are, and it's creating a lot of anxiety and it's creating a lot of depression and
Who doesn't have
therefore
anxiety
addictions.
now?
Well, this is the issue, right? So it's like usually your reward center would be from like going and getting the thing, like going out hunting, going out picking food, and like you'd have to move in order to achieve a goal. You achieve the goal, and then you can kind of rest from the goal. And then there's
but
like,
now you can't proceed to the next task because the weather is wrong or something. So you're going to spend 3 days with your little tribe, just kind of passing the time until
Yes.
it's time to do the next thing.
yeah. But now it's like rather than us having to be creative and pass the time and work through the boredom, we have things to do that for us.
Constantly.
And like that's a skill to be able to be creative and let your mind wander and be bored selectively. I don't think like that's one of those things where it's like choosing boredom, I think would be an interesting thing. And I think will probably become fashionable at some point in time where it's just like you choose to be bored for a bit.
But you can
What
never
time
choose.
is that going to happen?
I
I think you could be right, but I don't think we're at the apex of distraction
You
yet.
can
So-
never choose true boredom.
Meditation is a bit of that, where they're trying to sell you on the idea of meditating, and most people have a really hard time with it because they've never had to be still. But I think that's a different language of trying to sell the same idea of like stopping and being bored and leaning into the idea of not filling your space with distraction. and the idea of being present and things like that. I think that you could describe that as selectively choosing boredom, because it's boring.
Yeah.
It really is. Like sitting around and meditating, if you're going to give yourself 20 minutes, people will feel uncomfortable doing that. And it's like, oh, I don't understand. I just get distracted by my thoughts. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe when you're bored, it's like that's when you think and you create and you come up with things and you pick apart your own thoughts.
The immediate gratification is not there.
Yeah, of course.
Like, and if there is any reward to it at all, it's not going to be what you would typically like associate with a reward.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so for most people, they're not thinking on the level of, I wish my mind was clearer. I wish I could think more clearly and enjoy the moment better. They're thinking, I wish I had more shit. Like, I wish I had a bucket of chicken.
Yeah.
Right? I wish I could win the lottery.
No, I think
Right?
what they're really wishing is they're wishing to live in a state of ecstasy.
Yeah.
Whatever
well,
that is. The dream and the
Whatever the end goal
Well,
is.
in a world that has continuously, through advertisement and peer pressure, sold them the dream of, if you can just get all of the comforts, you will be unendingly blissful.
Yes.
Right?
In fact, it's
when that's the opposite
the
of the
opposite.
truth.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you have the least amount of comforts, you're probably pretty elated most of the time.
Well-
and like I mean like your resting state is pretty high. So you can experience shootings up of happiness and you can experience sadness and things like that. But your actual steady state is probably pretty like
Yeah.
contentment or whatever you want to call
The
it.
expression "nothing to lose" is a powerful expression about an entire person's state of mind.
But you see that in certain things where it's like, people will go on kicks of like, you can't have a TV in here. You got to have silence in this time. You got to read a book, because a lot of people associate books with boredom, weirdly enough.
Yeah, which is crazy.
It's not that crazy. People are different types of learners, right? Like I can't sit down and read a book, even though I'm good at reading.
See, I'm different. I just got 3 books for my birthday from
Yeah.
Sarah.
Well,
I
like,
read lots.
When I read, I have to do like the cumulative reading, where I will analyze the page and find what the page is saying rather than read every word. Because like even when I listen to podcasts, I have to listen to them at an increased speed. I just can't. I don't know. I can't slow down in that respect when it comes to taking in information.
I'll actively be thinking when I'm making a vlog, like, because I'm stalling sometimes for time a little bit because I want to run up to a certain amount of duration. I want enough to say to flesh that out, and there always is enough to say. It's not like I'm just padding things unnecessarily entirely, but like I'll be thinking sometimes it'll slip into my subconscious. Whoever's watching this is doing it on 2 times speed.
Yeah, exactly.
Get to the point, Remy.
Yeah. It might be a
Holy
20-minute
shit.
video, but I'm watching it in 10.
Yeah. Well, and I'm fine with people doing it.
Yeah.
If that helps them.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
I just know I can take a minute.
But that's like, I don't know. I think a lot of the things that kind of get marketed to people as those like removals of things are all trying to push towards that type of space.
Yeah.
Even like the the Wim Hof thing and the breathing, it's like it's a boring thing to do.
It's a common. Well, it takes physical effort.
Yep.
It is meditative because it forces you into the moment, which we're all kind of scared to do on purpose, and it changes your state. So it's like, it's this awkward thing, and I'm going to feel better afterwards. It's only going to take 5 minutes. It'll probably piss away doing nothing anyway. I'm just not going to do it. It sounds too hard.
See, we have a very luxurious thing at our disposal in tattooing. Is you are present.
Yeah.
Like that's the best thing about tattooing for
I
me.
find it makes me crabby.
You? Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm tired and crabby.
Well, okay, yeah. So there's a couple of different things there.
Too high
that's happening.
focus for too long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a physical strain on your brain, right? So it's you've ran a marathon mentally.
By the end of 5 or 6 hour tattoo, I get home and I'm kind of like, I feel weird for a bit.
Yeah, yeah, and like I
admit
think that's one of the reasons that a lot of tattooers will run to substances afterwards.
Yeah.
Just because like you have a form of physical exhaustion, and I think giving yourself some sort of like upper afterwards, either like
Change your
a
state.
shot of whiskey or a sativa or something like that,
Yeah.
where it's like this you get a boost back up because you've just had this like you know what I mean, and it's laborious to say the least. I've never felt exhaustion mentally like that before.
It's
other
a
than
lot.
tattooing. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Does it taper off as you go though? You think you ever get
Yeah,
to a
you
point
get
where-
stamina. Like he
You
can do a long
Yeah.
sit.
Yeah,
he can do
I
6
can
or
do a
7
crazy
hours
long-
before that stuff
I can
happens.
do a crazy long sit, but it's still even a 4-hour tattoo. At the end of it, I'm kind of like weird for a bit.
Especially
Then
after
it
the
requires mental
adrenaline comes
alertness,
down.
right? Because like I have part of that in my job every Sunday morning. Only on Sunday mornings, I run the line. Like I'm
Yeah.
calling and I'm making sure everything's going right, and I have to talk to everyone. And there's a lot of mental exertion. You have to
Yep.
be a leader the whole day, right? And like it's hard to explain it, but the way I've always looked at it is like everybody that's coming to me is you have to treat them like they're the most important person in the world, because in that
Yeah.
moment they have something serious going on, right? And when you have to treat things like they're crisis in that moment, if you do something wrong, and I'm sure that's what it's like tattooing, right? Then it's requiring an urgency every step of the way. Everything's crisis, nothing's a crisis.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing.
That's
Right?
that's exactly like tattooing.
That's kind of the mindset that I get into on Sundays, and when I get home, I'm always like a little extra crispy for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Because I've been taxed for too long, and a lot of the times it's like you don't go to the bathroom for, hours on end, because you're just stuck there, right? That's a lot of what my job ends up being. Actually, is just like you're not allowed to leave even for a second because there's something immediately pressing happening.
Yeah, I mean, at least for good chunks of the day, right?
Yeah.
I think on a Sunday, too, it's like you have this whole morning leads
4-hour
into
morning
brunch,
rush.
leads into lunch.
Yeah, it never
leads
ends.
Into, oh, man.
Once 9 o'clock rolls on, it may as well be 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like when you get 9 o'clock, it's like, oh, breakfast is here. You may as well say lunch is here, right? Because
all the same.
it's going to be the same. It's going to roll one from into the other. Sometimes it's hard not to think of it like I'm feeding the same people repeatedly. Like you start almost like dehumanizing, like you're
There's
just
this
feeding
one-
on animal.
There's this one Jabba the Hutt character that's in the...
Yeah, just
in
keep
the thing,
sending
just ordering,
food.
ordering.
And it's
It's
all very
hard-
specific.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter what it is. Just keep putting food out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually it will have its fill and leave you alone.
Yeah. Around 5 o'clock. Maybe not. Do you
Well,
guys do a lot for dinner?
Sometimes, but no, it's not like we're more morning lunch.
Yeah.
But we do have obviously we have a dinner rush, but it's not
Not the same.
the same. It's like 75% morning shift, and then
Yeah. Well, when I always think breakfast. When I get there.
But anyway, yeah, that forced like mental alertness for so long, it always makes me cranky too.
Yeah.
At the end of it.
Yeah, and I think there's only so much you can develop that. Like I've seen some people that have an especially high amount of it, and yeah, but I think you have a finite amount of that within you.
Well, I think that could go towards like your introverted versus extroverted.
Sure.
Right? Because I can be very, very extroverted. Like I can be really charismatic. I can turn on the charm. I can like be talking to the whole room and whatever for a period of time. But after a while, I start getting sick of it, and then everyone's annoying to me. Like every person becomes annoying eventually, and then it's like the real skill that I've developed is not allowing them to know that.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like even though I'm finding them annoying to the point where I want to push them away,
To the point of exhaustion.
you have to pretend that it's not bothering you.
So I've got a thought on that point. Actually, I've been reflecting this more and more. But tattooing is super socially exhausting in that sense because you're constantly, almost every single
You're
day,
a therapist.
you're their therapist. You're charming that person to some extent, but it's not recharging like you're hanging out with a friend. Even though some of these people are super dynamic and interesting and have similar fields that they're well informed in, and they're talking to you about backcountry outdoor shit. They're teaching you things. You're learning. You're interested. But at the end of the day, you're expanding a relationship that's kind of just a workplace relationship. And like, oh, I see this person 6 times a year. So sure, we had this good conversation. It was a blast. But I'm also just socially exhausted, and now I have less energy to go to my actual social outlets and
Yeah, I
converse
hear
with-
ya.
You know, so now I'm pulling away from deepening the social sources that do recharge me.
It can change a little. So like when I was getting tattooed over at the other place we were talking about him earlier, I was getting there every single week, and we would talk for hours before we would tattoo, and a while after too, and it was to the point where I like pretty well intimately knew this guy.
Yeah.
And he was telling me things I didn't want to know, and I felt like he was starting to do the reverse, like where normally it's like the tattoo artist is a therapist. I was starting to feel like
No, he's leaning on you.
he's leaning on me and telling me things I don't really care to know, and like it was advancing to a point where I was like, I'm gonna have to stop seeing you, right? Like it felt like I needed to break up with him.
yeah.
Just start charging him.
I was like, this. I'm not a prostitute. Like it felt, it's like the old trope of the romantic guy he's a little bit ugly, but he wants to pay you for your company. He doesn't really want to fuck you, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He's like, just come to dinner with me. Like he's looking for an escort almost.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the sex. It's about the closeness.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Right?
right. The intimacy.
It's not about the tattoo. It's about the intimacy.
I just love the conversation.
Right. But then, like I was saying earlier, like people they'll make their tattoo appointment and they'll be on the way from somewhere out of town 2 hours early, right? Because for them, it's this huge event.
It's a big day.
Their big day is you're like, oh, I don't really want to go to work today.
That's right. That's right.
Right? So imagine the unequal
It's
footing you're
immediately-
on.
Well, and they're
Different.
asking you the same questions everyone else has asked
Of
you.
course, and
And they're going away later like, my tattoo artist told me this and this and this, and I asked him this, and he said
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
And you're like,
It's where you just wish you just had like a picture you could just point at that has all the answers.
I would almost like print out a sheet beforehand, just answering all the kind of
Yeah.
like basic
Yep.
questions. Just
Before you ask me any questions,
Yeah.
I've heard 90 times.
yeah, here you go. Hopefully this answers about
It's like
30
a
minutes.
35-page book.
I went to
There's
the
a lot
dentist.
in there.
Monday evening, I went to the dentist after tattooing for the day. And I walked
Just
in.
to hang out, or
Yeah. So I walked in, I sat in the chair, and she's like trying to start the small talk thing. And how's your summer? Oh, good, busy. How's this? I'm like, yeah. Where'd you go? I'm like, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't want to do this. Hey, man, that's the best.
And
choice.
she's like, huh. And then she's talking with
matter.
some dentist crap for a minute. And then she's like, oh yeah. So where were you? I'm like, not important.
oh man, it's just gonna make you sound more intriguing.
And then later
It's
the
gonna be like a secret
now
agent
you're
or
a
something.
project.
So then
Yeah.
she's like, okay, cool. He's not down
I'm
for
gonna
small
get
talk.
him.
The dentist comes in, same thing happens, and I'm like, same thing.
That's
I'm
like, why
not
would-
interested. Don't care. I'm like, you couldn't pay me enough to make me small talk in that moment.
Yeah.
Like after a day of tattooing and after all the small talk recently, and like I'm dealing with, my head is so abuzz with family bullshit and resentment.
Yeah.
After that trip, that I'm like, it's a good trip, and I could totally talk about it for hours, but you couldn't pay me enough. I
no
am
thanks.
so over it.
Yeah,
can tell it.
reasonable.
Yeah.
I went to the eye doctor a couple months ago here, and it's the same thing. So you get tattooed here in town? It's like, yes, let's address the most obvious fucking thing on the planet. Right? Like I just immediately was just
No, I
turned
fly to
off.
So you
Vancouver
stare
every
into people's
time.
eyes all day?
Yeah, like it's just I understand what he's doing. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily fault him, but I'm like, man, I've had this conversation so many times.
Last night we were playing disc golf. And
You should just say no. Nope.
yeah.
No,
Never been tattooed,
No.
actually.
I haven't
Never
been
been.
tattooed.
This is a condition.
You like tattoos?
This happens naturally. This is just how I am.
I'm very upset and I'm very annoyed about it. Don't ask.
Why would you draw attention to it?
Yeah, I'm trying to get over this horrible skin condition, and you've just ruined my day. Right?
You should
I have
actually
body
say that.
modificaciones.
Yeah, it's very complicated. You don't want to know.
Man, that would be hilarious, though.
Well, I'll tell you before we get off this topic, because I had to say it. Like the one benefit that I really love about working with Rick is he doesn't give a shit about anything. Mm-hmm. Like if you hear a little laugh here or there, that's all you're getting. Like, well, we'll make a quick quip. He has no interest in like asking me how my life is going or anything like that, and I don't want to know any more than that like about him either. Like I don't need to, and that doesn't mean I don't like him.
Yeah, of course.
It's just I like just coming in and sitting down for the operation at this
Yeah, yeah.
point. I've been through so much small chat with tattoo artists over the years, and like I'm just so kind of bored with the whole thing that even when I was getting tattooed by Lee, there were times when like he would, because we had a running narrative, right?
Yeah.
But I would just get tired
Oh,
of the
after
song
a while,
and
it is a
dance.
deep conversation.
And but I would say like, okay, but then let's talk about your life for a while.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I got to know him that
Yeah.
way, right? Because
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk about me anymore. 'Cause I've done this so many times where it's like, I'm not that interested in it. I'm not even that interested in my own story. That, as crazy as it is to say on my podcast,
Yeah.
like, you get tired of hearing yourself talk.
Yeah, of course.
Like, it's like that conversation I was talking about when that coworker of mine went away, and she was like, "Whoa, you didn't notice I was gone?" It's like, I get sick of myself even. I get sick of everyone after a while, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you get around someone too much, you will get sick of them. I get sick of my own shit. Like, when I'm talking and I hear myself just blah, 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 and I'm like, holy fuck, you're annoying. Have you ever had that where you're like,
Yeah.
why don't you just shut the fuck up for
I
a
do that
while?
on this podcast, man. I'll say things sometimes. I'm like, dude, shut up, man.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Like, I need a vacation from me.
yeah, I hear you.
I pull it strategically, where I'm in a group setting and I'll be running my mouth for a minute and I'm like, and point over and then I'm like, hold it, wait, not, and the urge goes away and then I'm like, I'm being a good listener now. I nailed it.
But this is it. This is
I
why,
did it.
again, I love like getting tattooed by Rick, because neither of us have to do that. There's none. There's not even an attempt. I'm just a piece of meat for a couple hours.
Yep.
That's all I want to be too. Like, I don't want to be assigned any love or care in that moment. Just do the operation like the surgeon and get me the fuck on my way. Right? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's about the process. No amount of fluff you're putting on that is helping the experience for me. Because, like, it might for some people. I've said, for me, that's a good fit. But for some people, they might not like that approach. They might want to be sweet-talked a little bit through it, right? Because if you can talk through it, then you don't have to feel it as much. You
Well-
get swept away in a conversation or...
But it also comes back to the people who get tattooed once a year. They have a lot of questions for you, and they want to learn a lot, and they're really interested in what your
Right.
life is like. So they are like, this is my big day. I'm going to learn what I can. They're excited. They're
Yeah.
immersed in the experience. This is a new environment for them. And you're like, yeah, someone sits in this chair every day and has kind of similar viewpoint on what's happening here.
Yeah. But I do think that some people... Especially, I noticed so many tattoo artists would do this sleight of hand trick near the end, or like, oh, I'm going to do some white highlights, but I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then they'll just, so tell me about your work.
Yeah.
And they think that it's hurting or something, so they're trying to like distract
Distract
you
them.
from
That
it.
is actually a good tactic.
Right. I mean,
That
I
is-
appreciate
that is
that.
worth using. Yeah.
But when people will like try that one on me, I kind of
You're like, I know
recognize
this
what's
trick.
up, and I don't need it. I'm not bragging. I'm just kind of like, no, I paid you to do this. You put me in pain. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. That's why we do this, right? I don't need to be loved and romanced to get through this thing that I paid you a good amount of money to do to me. Like, you're not holding me captive. At any time, we're free to leave.
If you ever
yeah.
start tattooing, there's one topic that's going to keep coming around and stay around.
Yeah.
And you get so sick of it so fast. Where does it hurt the most? And then
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm
they just
already sick
continue
of
to
that.
talk about the pain throughout the tattoo. And you're like, could we not talk about
Who cares?
the pain? Right?
Life
Like,
hurts.
Okay. So
but as a topic of conversation, I'm so over it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, does your skin hurt?
Well, okay, so there's something to that, though, which kind of goes back to my earlier point of just, like, not choosing discomfort. Pain is so rare.
Yeah.
And, like actual, like, deep pain, like physical pain. We live in a world where we can have things to take away our physical pain rather
Yeah.
than having to live within it or to fix it. We can just give something to you that takes the pain away rather than actually fix whatever's causing the pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wild times. So yeah, I mean that's part of this is a really unique experience, not just for the tattoo, but pain. Pain that you're choosing, and you're not going to take
It's
it away
exotic.
until it's gone. Like until that pain decides to be done, in terms of the project is complete, you are in this pain, and it's fascinating to people
Yeah.
because it's like, how often do you get that? How
That's
often do you
right.
get a headache and immediately pop Tylenol?
Oh, yeah.
Like it's not like, oh, I'm just going to let this headache do what
So,
it needs to do.
I mean,
It must be
Are you
my
looking at me?
I mean,
my
I do the
brain
same thing.
chemistry must be like just fucked or something, because like I can't even imagine like not needing that part of life.
yeah.
Where it's like, I know we've talked about this to death, but like when I think about a tattoo, it's like that's just that's the gun I'm using, right? But like I wouldn't want to imagine not having to go through something hard every now and then.
But that's because you see the value in it now, right? Whereas most people tend to believe the lie that the things in their life are going to be the things that give them value. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
like-
the new shit and the this thing and
The
the new
comforts.
house and all the comforts are the things that are going to give them value.
It's like this morning when I'm like, I might not get tattooed for like a month. And I'm not like, oh, well, I'm not going to have anything cool for him. It's like, no, that's part of my DNA at this point is I do this on a sustained level and it regulates me. It puts life in some kind of perspective for me. And less, as we've talked about, it's less than it used to be. But like, if you were to give me, you're not getting tattooed for a year, I might have some kind of a crisis on my hands.
Yeah, you probably would.
Like, I might be in real trouble. Like,
You'd have,
that
you'd have
might
to learn a new sport that involves a lot of pain or some weird
Yeah, like
thing.
That's why
I
I think,
can't
like-
give you an answer for what that would do to me, like long term or short term. Like it wouldn't be good.
Well, that's why I think like he would have to transition into something that is like
like SSRIs.
no, not quite. No, like powerlifting or something.
Well, that's where people will be like,
Oh.
well, smoking is addictive. Like all these different drugs are addictive. I'm like, you tell me anything that you enjoy that isn't on some level addictive.
Yeah, 100%. If it's giving you dopamine in any way, shape, or form, you are an addict.
Yeah, and I've never denied it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not saying that all addictions are bad though.
No.
Some
no.
addictions are great, but it is an addiction. That's why it doesn't necessarily matter to me what we got into even today. Because Sarah was like, what are you working on today? I'm like, well, we have 5 or 6 different things we could do with the day, and I don't really care which one gets done. I'm not like, oh, I really need this today.
Yeah.
There's only one thing that I needed done today. Everything else was like, whatever. But just so long as we're getting something done.
Yep.
Because it's more about the experience than it is about the image, always.
When you're this many layers in, do you think you could sell ad space?
No.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure like Red Bull would be stoked to put a
Yeah.
logo on you or something.
Yeah, but I don't want a Red Bull logo on me.
I mean, you don't know that.
Here's my Mill Street Brewing logo.
You don't know what price tag.
Yeah, I
comes
was
with
gonna
that.
say for $100,000 you'll do a
Well,
lot
where
of
am I
stuff.
putting it? I'll tell you what. I'll give you
Over
my
to the
left
side.
ass cheek.
There you go.
That might sell more. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. With all the OnlyFans turmoil, right?
They reneged on that. Hey.
Well, did they?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's announced this morning.
It's a
They-
publicity stunt. Ron was talking about that, and I'm like,
No, it's
this
a
is-
legit problem they're having.
Yeah.
Banking institutions don't want to take their money because of where like they can't control the content that's on their platform. So it can be nefarious, and banks are not allowed to take money from nefarious sources. So if you have someone that's like being forced into those situations, and then you're profiting off of it, like that's a big problem. Like they did that with Pornhub a while back, which was just like, you're monetizing this, but we don't want to take your money if it's potentially illegally gotten.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So it's the
Well,
same issue that they're running into.
Well, that was all about consent, right? Because there's some
Yeah.
stuff up there that wasn't consensual.
Yep.
But how do they screen for that?
Yep.
Like
Exactly.
How do
Yeah.
you
And
screen
And that's the
for
main
that?
thing that they're running into.
When it's actors and victims
Yeah,
side by
right.
side, you're like,
How-
which one is in trouble?
Yeah. How do you know?
Yeah.
And that's like, I can understand their issue. And I think probably a bigger part of it would be like, if they get that sorted, then they can go public and make it
See,
a huge, huge thing.
I'm thinking something very different though, in regards of OnlyFans. I'm thinking very much that they're going to find a way to build some secondary platform to attract those people to, create this $60 billion IPO, legitimize the content, bring that public, bring this to the surface, attract all those users, and here we go. We have a social media factory.
Yeah,
We're
that's-
making social media platforms.
Yeah, but it's still, can you get your money to a bank? That's the starting place, right?
Oh, yeah, but they did. They already monetized the $60 billion one, and now they're creating a new one down here. They don't need institutional money yet because they're just making a new platform with that same potentially nefarious content. I mean, if
It's gonna find a place to go.
if I was in that business, that's certainly what I'd be doing.
Yeah, fair.
Put it
well,
that
who's
way.
ever gone like, oh, you took my money away? That's okay. I didn't need it anyway.
Yeah, no.
Like that's not going to happen. They're
No,
they're
no.
going to find a way, whether OnlyFans supports it or not. They're going to do something with it,
yeah.
right? It's not going to just dissolve.
No.
Oh, well, paying for nudes, that's not a thing anymore. No, there'll be another company that'll take that.
Yeah.
I think
that.
another company owned by the same investors.
Probably.
Yeah, I would suppose.
Why
would
wouldn't
expect.
Why wouldn't they, really?
They'll hire a couple of the same executives from OnlyFans. They'll create a board of directors with the intent of creating a new one to attract the old content makers, and just pull an old switcheroo. And next thing you know it, in 6.5 years, they'll be doing the exact same thing again, moving the content around and selling another IPO.
We need to stop doing so much as the policing of things we don't even understand. Like, we have no idea what the internet is still.
But at the same time,
Yeah, it's super.
We're trying to, like, rein it in. And it's like, you think you can just... Nope, you can't do this.
But when you're incentivizing victimizing people, you've got a problem.
Oh, I know. I know
Right?
that. But I think that it's really hard to get tethers on things like this. Because it's like, you think they're just going to stop doing porn? Like, they're not going to stop.
But you're hoping to incentivize ethical content, right? You're really pushing that, unethical content doesn't pay and ethical content does, is what you're really trying to
The
push.
problem with that, though, is what's happening on Instagram and TikTok and all these different platforms is ethical can become a problematic idea. So, like, ethical can become broadened into anything you want it to. Now, all of a sudden, it's, well, I don't like this thing either. This thing's bad too. And then I don't fully understand this thing. It might be bad too. So it starts out small, and before long, you've got this giant chest of shit, and all of a sudden, it's just the cleanest, easiest on the eyes content that's getting pushed everywhere. And it's just like this small slice of reality that you're getting presented with that's perfect and beautiful and as clean as possible, right? And then 80% of society isn't represented. And then we're looking at these perfect people, these perfect pictures, these perfect videos, whatever. And we're going, is this reality? And it's warping our sense of, like, self even. Because it's like, well, I don't look like that.
Yeah.
My life isn't like that. I don't want these things. Is this what I'm supposed to want? Right? It can become... It's a slippery slope is what I'm trying to say.
Do you think when that reality is presented as super clean and tidy, it piques more interest in the other extreme?
I think it does.
Like that. Like I'm trying to think of terms of like when you have celebrities that are presenting themselves as this perfect thing, and that's why tabloids are so interesting to people.
Something I was trying to get to probably now for maybe even a couple months on the podcast is like when I was doing the blackout stuff, that stuff was trending more than anything I'm doing right now because people hated it. Like,
Interesting.
now there's almost no negativity around what I'm doing, other than like the weird, like, you shouldn't have changed the eye, like that kind of bitterness. But like the white on black, the silver, the red, the black, all that new stuff that I'm doing, it's not getting pushed. It's because it's not vulgar in someone's eyes. It's like, oh, look at that, that's cool.
It's not controversial.
Or indifferent. They're
That's
indifferent.
not polarizing enough for the algorithm to give a fuck.
Well, it's aspirational in some sense, but that doesn't trend the way hate and misunderstandings do.
No.
So I was really trending because people seen me taking a cool bodysuit and ripping it to pieces. That was the way it was being portrayed to them.
Right.
Why is this guy doing this? What an idiot. And now it's like, oh, this is why he was doing it. That looks kind of cool. And that doesn't trend as well as this sucks. I hate this.
Yeah.
Because you don't have as many nasty things to say. It doesn't draw you in as much, I guess.
Not as much emotion.
It's weird. I didn't anticipate that, but it does make sense to me that disgust trends better than love. So I think when you're, to your point of does it incentivize the other content, I think that it does. Like what people find revolting wins over what people find beautiful a lot of the time.
Wild.
Yeah. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
On that note, I wanted to talk about your white on black piece a little bit.
Oh,
'cause
heck yeah.
We
Well,
finally got pictures of it.
That's a big turn of topic.
Well, not really.
I guess no, we were already right there.
we're talking about white on black stuff that I've done. And those lines healed really great.
Yeah, that was
Right.
one pass, and I was planning on doing a second pass when she came back in, and she's like, "You know what? The white on black is quite painful. Could we not?" And I was like, honestly, they're so perfect for right now. Come back in a year for a second pass because it is white on black. I do definitely want a second pass, but I'd much rather her come back in after a year because what more valuable intel can I have than seeing 1 year healed white on black?
Well, I was going to say you should be getting pictures of that whenever she comes in. So
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
do like almost like a journey along with it.
Well, I
It's
don't.
like,
I might have to message her and get her to come back in 3 or 6 months because
Yeah.
she's not like a regular get tattooed person.
No, that's
she just
too
had
bad.
a collection of tattoos in her shoulder that were not suiting for her at all, and she needed something that flowed better and actually like were attractive on her body.
and you were able to get it done.
Hell yeah!
So good on you.
So I'm stoked to see at a year what single pass white on black lines look like on someone who does get sun.
Yeah.
Because like,
That's huge.
Because that white on black, like it healed well, but I could already see the sun getting at it.
Jeez.
So we'll see.
That's so crazy to me because I would never do that to anything
Yeah,
that
like-
I have tattooed.
Got these white arms.
My
right now.
entire body is a tattoo, and I would never get any of it. Like sun, I would never have sun exposure on any part of it.
Yeah, but that's
Very
also because
long.
you don't like the sun. Some people really do.
True, but even when I do go out, I'm in hoodies and shit.
Yeah, see,
Like-
when I'm out, I'm like, okay, let's. Once a tattoo's a year or two old, I'm like, fine, SPF 30 is good enough. Let's roll.
It's like your parents' tattoos, or like my parents' tattoos.
Yeah.
They're all like, just banged up as fuck. And
yeah.
they're just brutal looking, but
But let's spin it this way: that first bodysuit of yours, you could have been out there sun tanning, beating the shit out of it, and it actually would have made your blackout easier.
yeah,
Probably.
probably because it would have bleached it something.
Well, it would have dispersed the ink a little bit
Yeah.
more, right? So it's a smoother cover.
Yeah, some of it was pretty hard, but other parts, as Lee said, took that black like a $5 something. So it depends, right? It depends on the
I
area.
think that sentence out of context and was going to be great.
Like a $5 something. Something.
Yeah, you said the loud part. Or
You said the quiet part
quiet
loud,
part
loud
loud
part
and the loud part quiet.
I don't understand.
Damn it, again?